without further ado, it is already so nostalgic for me. Let's talk about Link's Awakening. Man, where do I even begin with this game? Because this, I could even, again, be like this. And look, this is definitely my childhood copy, holy shit. This is beaten up. You can even see, well, maybe you can't really see. I don't know how well it is viewable. Well, maybe the other side. You see those scratch marks in the corner? Yeah, there you can see it. This is definitely my childhood cartridge. As a child, when I wasn't able to get games out of the Game Boy, a lot of my childhood Game Boy cartridges have that. Sometimes I just wouldn't be able to get them out of the console as a child. So what I would do, and you're technically correct, is I would go like this. And that's why a lot of my childhood cartridges have like scratches in the corner. And this is an insanely beat up cartridge because Link's Awakening is probably the Game Boy game I played the most. Well, actually, most definitely. I'd actually say that Link's Awakening is the singular game that I've definitely played through the most. Maybe not, probably not the game I have the most like hours of gameplay, of game time in, but the one that I've finished the most. Hey, Davey, good to see you. So let's talk about this game that's so near and very dear to me. There's a spoiler warning right here. I will talk about the story and I will talk about the spoilers, which there are some relevant things to talk about with this game. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is the 4th Zelda game. It came out in 1993. Only a very short time after A Link to the Past. And like 5 years before the next game in the series, which will be Ocarina of Time. You've only played this about 100 times. Yeah, we say eye to eye on this, I see. Because that's the rough ballpark for me as well. I know this game by heart, pretty much. There are 2 updated versions. 2. I have to make sure I'm not behind the splash art. The DX version for the Game Boy Color came out in 1998. And the Switch version, the Switch remake, came out, and I looked this up before the stream and my heart sank a bit. It came out in 2019. It's 6 years old. Ah, my heart. We are old, Conrad. But yeah, as a child, I only played the original Game Boy version. I didn't even play the DX version until we played it on stream, actually. My first time playing DX version and thus playing the Color Dungeon is on stream. It was even in an item randomizer. Which is a fun way to play this game. This game it has a unique place in the Zelda series, because when Nintendo first translated a lot of their like franchises to the Game Boy, there was kind of the feeling that you could just do whatever because it was quote-unquote just the Game Boy. So from Super Mario Land to this game to a lot of others, Metroid 2 also comes to mind. They were noticeably different than their home console counterparts in some ways. Oh, there's sadly some ads in my YouTube video for the soundtrack. I have to skip those. I have to pay attention to that. I have not played the Switch version. No, I will eventually. But I just have such a fondness for the OG version. They really felt like they could do whatever with Link's Awakening. It was originally just like an after school, I was about to say, like an after work activity for Nintendo developers that were developing software for the Game Boy. And they originally were planning to like port A Link to the Past to the Game Boy, and then it just evolved into its own game, which they kept going, like again as an after work activity, for a few weeks before they finally like pitched it to Nintendo, and it got approved. And because it was again like only for the Game Boy, Shigeru Miyamoto mostly stayed out of it. He came in pretty much just as a, I think it's executive producer or something, credited as that. He mainly came in as like a tester and for like final ideas and quality control at the very end. So the team was given pretty free reign, and they came up with a very unique Zelda game because they ditched Zelda herself. She's not appearing in this game. Hyrule is not in this game. Ganon is not in this game. So many staples, like, I know the series is only like 4 games long at this point, but so many staples are missing in this game. They just threw Link, which is the same Link as A Link to the Past, by the way, making this another technically direct sequel. Throw him on an island called Koholint, or in the German version, Kokolint, and I don't really know why they changed that. And have him figure out the like secrets of this little island with its inhabitants and the mysterious windfish that gets brought up. Let's talk about the technical side first before we get into the gameplay and the characters and the story. Graphic-wise, this is a Game Boy game. I mean, the Game Boy is monochrome and it has a very limited pixel count. It's an 8-bit console. But it's really charmingly designed. I mean, yes, it's just like singular screens that have to hard scroll to the next, but you can see that they spend a lot of time like designing the island and giving it very distinct different regions. You have the desert, you have the swamp, you have the Telltale Mountains, which have a fantastic song that I used to actually like listen to by keeping my Game Boy on. And Link's Awakening is a good example for why just, even if you don't have the best high-end graphics, if it runs fluidly, that still makes it pretty good. The Game Boy games run at 60 FPS, so they're better than Bloodborne. And it's just wonderful to run through that world. The music, I mean, we've been listening to it again. This has some real fantastic music. Again, Telltale Heights was one of my favorites. But also the Windfish theme. When you eventually collect all of the instruments that you have to collect, at the end of each dungeon you get an instrument, and you can combine all of them to play the Ballad of the Windfish, which you need to do to progress. And it's something, it was my like childhood gaming moment. I loved that. I thought it was always a shame when I had to like restart to listen to it again in its entirety, because you can only play it with all of the instruments once. And I actually you can still play it when you don't have all the instruments, and I used to do that just so I could listen to it again. And huge thing when it comes to the music for this game, I think I teased it last time. This is the first Zelda game that has a different theme, a different piece of music for every single dungeon, giving every single dungeon even more of an identity. That wasn't a thing before this game. I mean, there were like some different songs. Like in both Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, you had a different theme for the final dungeon. But all of the previous ones had the same music. In A Link to the Past, you had different music for the Light World dungeons and the Dark World dungeons. But this is the game where you have very distinct musical pieces for every single dungeon, and I love that so much. And it continues, I think in every single Zelda game from this point on. And it's always like one of the greatest parts of the OST, in my opinion. Checking out the different dungeon themes and the atmosphere it provides. When it comes to the gameplay, this game does a few things quite differently. And actually one of the things that became the inspiration for the entire project was that some designers wanted even as far back as a Link to the Past, wanted Link to be able to not have the sword equipped, so you could, for example, combine two items. Like the bow and arrow and a bomb, to shoot bomb arrows. But Miyamoto was against it for A Link to the Past, but in this game, he wasn't around that much, so they just did it. So you can de-equip the sword. You have just two item slots, one for the A button, one for the B button, and you can put whatever in any of those slots. And it's a lot of fun. It flows really well, Davey, yeah. The overworld and dungeons are so well designed. It's when you know where you're going, it's over pretty quick. But it's just always a memorable experience. Stop with the freaking ads, YouTube. Final Fantasy. Talking about Final Fantasy was easier in these reviews because Nobuo Uematsu has the entire music just on streaming services where I can stream it without ads. But Nintendo doesn't do that, so I have to pull them from YouTube where there are ads. Man, I think I need to get YouTube Premium. I've been putting it off so long, but it's getting more and more annoying with the ads. Well, there are a few things that this game introduces gameplay-wise that became staples in the series. The trading sequence, for example, which in this game is actually, at least part of it is mandatory. You start the trading sequence by getting a Yoshi doll, and you can just then trade it for an item and trade that for the next item, and it's fun to like get an item. You get this little, actually like almost point-and-click adventure side quest of getting something and thinking, wait, who could use that? Some of the things are not super logical. Like I remember you get a can of dog food and you have to give that to the alligator. And I always thought it was strange as a kid, but he has some cans next to him, so that's a visual clue. And yeah, it introduced cameos, I guess, which have not become a super staple, but I mean, some items have made their appearances here for the first time. The Rock's Feather. You can jump in this game. I mean, you could jump in Zelda 2, but this is a top-down Zelda game where you can jump. For the most part, because this game also has some side-scrolling sections in dungeons mainly, or in caves. And it works better because it's not overused like in Zelda 2. Yeah, it had Mario enemies like Goombas and Piranha Plants. It had freaking Kirby as an enemy. What else? The mayor from SimCity is in it. Freaking Peach. There's a photograph of Peach. And apparently they just did it. They thought, it's for Game Boy, we don't need to ask permission. But it makes it so this game has an entirely unique vibe, right? And the other thing that gives this game a very unique vibe is the story. Because this is, in my opinion, the first time that Zelda had an actually good story. The Game Boy camera worked with the DX version. That was added in the DX version, not in the original version. I never played with the Game Boy camera. A friend of mine had one, and he had the DX version. So I remember we sat around for a day in his basement and played his version of the game, and we were trying to get all of the photographs so we can print them out, which was fun. We were both huge Zelda fans. This has like a twist ending. This game has like a twist ending. You're constantly, over the course of the game, getting told that you need to wake the windfish to leave this island, and without the windfish waking, you're not going to get off the island and go back to Hyrule, to Zelda, where you need to go. But only after, I think, the 5th dungeon or so, you learn that the entire island is just a dream world created by the sleeping windfish. And if you wake him up, the dream ends, and everything just disappears. All of the people, all of the geography, all of the creatures, everything. And the bad guys are kind of sympathetic because of that, because they're called the nightmares. They're basically like creatures in this dream world that want to prolong the sleep of the windfish, because if the windfish wakes, they cease to exist. And you learn that one after another, and you have a really, like, even emotional scene with Marin, one of the characters in one of the villages, who poses some, like, existential questions of what it is to be alive, and if there's even something outside of the island, and that's a level of deepness that the first 3 games definitely didn't have in their story. And it's one of the many reasons that I love this game. And I do love this game. I legitimately love this game. As I said in the beginning of the review, I used to... This is probably the game that I've finished the most out of every single game I've ever played in my life. I used to play this every single year at least once, usually at least twice. I played it once when we were on holiday in Switzerland. I always played it there. And usually around like Christmas time, when I had a few days off, and it was just part of my like yearly winter holiday tradition to play this insanely beat up version, this insanely beat up cartridge, which I still have. And I still play it like semi-regularly, like every 1.5 years nowadays, probably. I know this game by heart. I can run through it pretty quickly, but it's still just as magical. I'm really, really happy that they made the Switch remake, because I felt like the more the years went on...
Gatorade.
No, not Gatorade. Shut the fuck up. The more the years went on, the fewer the people that actually played this game, because for a while there was no really good way to play this game. I mean, yes, you could emulate it, and it was on the virtual consoles and everything, and then Nintendo Switch Online. But it was so far removed from its original release, and even the DX release, that it faded more and more into like the retro status. But the Switch remake, oh, we got the boss theme now. The Switch remake was a huge success, and it looks amazing, and they used the graphic style for Echoes of Wisdom because it looks really cute. And I'm glad more people get to experience this, because in my opinion, this is one of the best Zelda games. It's one of the best games. Period. I mean, I think when I did the Zelda tier list, that I did, I think, in my first year of streaming, so that also like 5 years ago, oh my god. I think this was like number 3 or 4, and don't think that placement has changed. Because it's legitimately a fantastic game. I would also love to see them do the Oracle games. I feel like they won't, because it's 2 games. And there might even be like some licensing stuff with Capcom. I don't know. I have no idea. But this game, I can only highly recommend it. This, if you play any Zelda game, if you have no interest in Zelda games at all, and you only want to play one game to see if it's something for you, for me, for my money, this is the game you should play. Because I think it's a fantastic entry point into the series. Especially into the 2D side. Same for Minish Cap, yeah, that's also made by Capcom. But yeah, what an amazing game. I can praise this game like until the cows come home. This was actually like one of the shortest unscripted reviews, I feel like. Next time on this little unscripted review series that I'm doing, we will talk about the big one, right? We will talk about Ocarina of Time. I have some hot takes about Ocarina of Time. But I'm looking forward to that.